Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you didn't catch it, we simulated the regular season, and we have made it back to the playoffs with a record of 51, 24, and 7. We didn't win the President's Trophy, which is good, and we had a pretty dominant season, which is also good. So obviously, because last year we won the President's Trophy with 60 wins, then we got eliminated in the first round. Maybe we have a higher chance to win the Stanley Cup this year because of that we didn't win the President's Trophy, but it was a really good year, like I was mentioning, for this team. A couple of surprises. The main surprise that we did recognize in last episode was Josiah Staubitz, our captain, had 64 goals this season, which was definitely something I wasn't expecting, because early in his career, if I remember right, I think he was like a 20-30 goal guy. Sometimes even early on, actually, for his first like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years in the NHL, he didn't even hit 30 goals once. Since then, he's been hitting 30 goals plus. Then he had 45 goals a couple seasons in a row, and then jumped up by almost 20 goals. So a huge year for him. Hopefully he has a good playoffs as well, because that would definitely go a long way with helping out this team. Also, we had Ristolainen on 96 points, so the two of those guys working really well together as per usual. Kolar's had 78 points in 78 games. He did miss some time due to injury, but he is healthy for the playoffs, which is great. We had Tuzolino on 77 points, which is great, but the one thing that was a little bit problematic in last episode is he actually is a pending UFA. We were getting into contract negotiations with him, and it seems like he wants to get paid like $15 million, which is expensive as shit. So I honestly don't even know if this guy's going to come back next season. Because obviously if we signed him to what he's asking for, we might be like basically sacrificing a lot of our depth to basically re-sign him. So there is a chance that he could be in his last season with our team. I would love to bring him back because he's one of the best offensive defensemen on this team. But yeah, I don't think he's really worth the type of money he's asking for. This year was his best year of his career, almost won a Norris Trophy. At this point in his career, he has no Norris Trophies, yet he's trying to get $15 million. Like, he's a great defenseman, don't get me wrong. But, like, he's, like, literally, like, a 50, 60-point defender for the most part. Like, he's only had 2 70-point seasons. Obviously, I think if he ends up leaving us, he's going to end up winning a Norris on a different team. But, like I said, he has not won one so far. And he was making $11 million for a good contract. Yet now he wants, like, $15, $16 million, which is going to be a lot to spend on the open market, basically, towards one guy. We also did have Del Monte on 76 points, which is great. He's also a pending free agent, so that's another one that's a little bit like, I think he's only playing good just because his contract is up for renewal. We had Peterson on 64 points, so we had some guys definitely do better than anticipated, which is great to see. And also, Narena's a pending free agent this offseason. He had 48 points this year. So technically, if we lose Tuzolino, maybe it's not the end of the road, because Narena will still be able to drive that offense a bit from our back end. But obviously, it would be great to have that elite defenseman back there for a longer time. So it was a good year for the team. And then in terms of our goaltending, Jason Giunta did okay as a starter. Not as good, obviously, as last year. Spezza did with our team with that 916. But Giunta had a 906, which is respectable. And we're going to be leaning on him heavily in the playoffs, because I don't know if Semenov is going to be that type of guy, because he has had a little bit of a tough time in the regular season, especially. As you can see, his best season was in his first season with a 903. In the playoffs, he hasn't been that great of a goaltender either. He did win his only start, but he had an 800 save percentage. So I honestly don't know if this guy will get any chances really in the playoffs. It will likely be Giunta for most of the playoffs, unless he doesn't play good. Then we have to maybe go to Semenov, or we could go to somebody in the AHL like Harakala, who's very close to making the NHL, or Mathers even for that matter. So going to be interesting to see what happens in his first round. We are going to be going up against Minnesota, who we've gone up before against. Now, you can see Minnesota finished 51, 25, and 6. We finished 51, 24, and 7. So both of us have pretty similar records, and that's going to be an interesting thing going into this first round matchup. You can see if we look here, we're only 1 point above them during the regular season. So literally both these teams are pretty even in terms of matchup. We were better offensively in the regular season. They were better defensively. We were better on the power play, and they were worse actually on the penalty kill, but not by much. So they're a good defensive team. We're pretty much a good offensive team with a good penalty kill is what I'm trying to get at. So definitely going to be an interesting first round. I will show you guys their lines again here quickly, and then we'll get into your guys' comments after that, and then get into this first round matchup. But their roster, pretty similar, I'd say, to the times we played them before, but I think they are losing a bit of their depth that they used to have on their roster. So first line, McKenna, Height, and Kaprizov. So Kaprizov is still there at 39 years old. He's still an 87. This could be his last chance at another Stanley Cup. And I just realized my battery was almost died. I forgot about that on my controller, so let me go and quickly change that before I go through the rest of the lines. So as I was saying before my battery died, they also have a second line of Braden Yeager. They also have Tidji Ginla and Matt Boldy. Matt Boldy has been pretty good in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure last time we played them, he was their best goal scorer. Third line has Alexei Protas, Marco Rossi, and Bradley Nadeau. And a fourth line is Simon Knack, Richard Duras, and Josh Villman. So, like, the bottom six is pretty solid. Their third line's actually pretty good. I'd say a little bit weak with Boldy as a third line left winger, but he has been producing relatively well. Like, I'm pretty certain last time we played them in the playoffs, maybe he didn't score a ton, but he did pick up a lot of assists at least. Like, at least when they won the Stanley Cup or went to the Cup Finals back in 2032, he had 33 points in 23 games. So this guy definitely could play really good in the postseason as well. And then from a defensive standpoint, you can see their defensive core, I'd say, is definitely not super strong. Like, the right side is okay. The left side, definitely a little bit weaker. They have Mastianoev, and they have Faber. They have Niemela and Hedekin, and a top six pairing of Luno and McCabe. So, going to be interesting to see if we could score a lot of goals on them because that defensive core isn't super strong, but it was good during the regular season. And then their goaltending, Jesper Wallstedt, of course. Wallstedt is a great goaltender. He's going to be tough to score goals on. If we look at his playoff numbers last year, apparently he wasn't good in the playoffs years before. He actually hasn't had a good playoff since they won that Stanley Cup, it looks like, in 2032, where he had a .918 save percentage. So maybe we're going to be a little bit lucky. He is 34 years old now at this point, so maybe his age is kind of catching up to him. Didn't have as good of a regular season as he did the last few years either, so maybe he's on the downward trajectory, and that would definitely help us in this series. So going to be interesting to see if we could find a way to win this, and obviously, hopefully, we could find a way to win multiple rounds this year and maybe get ourselves a Stanley Cup, because I think our window of opportunity is not a huge window, but I would like us, obviously, to go far and win at least one of these cups in this series, because we probably have, if I'm not mistaken, like maybe around 10 seasons left of this franchise mode, around maybe 11, so there's not really a lot of time left to win ourselves a Stanley Cup in a sense. But anyways, before we get into this first round matchup, let's get into your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into game number one. We will have home ice advantage in the first round, despite both of our teams being pretty damn close in the standings. So the first comment is from Sound Otaku. Says, Dag might have been losing morale because it says the coach rolls 3 lines. Here's hoping this run turns out better than the last one, and yeah, that might be why Dag is losing morale, because Dag, even though he's been a good fourth liner, he has been losing a little bit of morale due to ice time, I think it was, and that's kind of unfortunate because I do like Dag. He does bring a little bit of an element to our lineup that we don't really have anywhere else with like his hitting and stuff like that. But 15 points this year and a +6, like he was solid. He didn't really drop that down too much in overall. His potential has changed from a low lead to a medium top 6, but obviously it's going to change to a bottom 6 at some point. But 80 overall, still respectable. Like I said, he does bring a little bit of physicality to our lineup, which is nice. But yeah, he has been, if I'm not mistaken, it says no log items, but I did see notifications last episode that he was losing morale. So it's kind of weird, but like I said, he's been a pretty solid guy for us. Not a huge point producer, like he's putting up 10 to 15 points. Doesn't take a ton of penalties as a grinder, which is kind of interesting, but he probably, he throws a good chunk of hits. Not a crazy amount for a grinder. Obviously, if he'd get more ice time, I think he probably would throw more hits, but he's a respectable player. Also, his playoff numbers, how are they? Doesn't really pick up a lot of points in the playoffs either, so he's kind of one of those guys that we could probably replace at some point, but obviously I'd like to hold on to him a little bit longer. I don't think he's a pending free agent. No, he's got one more year left, so maybe at some point he's a depth forward for us or something like that, but for right now, obviously I'd like having him in the lineup just to bring that physicality that we don't really have anywhere else in the lineup. And the last and final comment is from Michael Dose, who says, I don't understand why Tuzolino's numbers are so low for the organization when the guy has been making $10+ million and playing as a top line on defense and on the penalty kill and power play. What more can the organization do for him? Very selfish individual. And yeah, I don't really know about Tuzolino. His organizational interest was very low as well. That's another thing I forgot to point out when I was just mentioning about his contract negotiations. See, if we go to him right now and go to contract extension, his contract, I think, even went up maybe more. He's now thinking he's worth $18.4 million for 6 years, which is a boatload of money. And you can see his organizational interest is pretty damn low. It's only at 4 bars out of the possible 10 of them. So basically, to get him back, we'd basically have to pay him that type of money almost guaranteed. Even if we throw a clause onto this, it doesn't do anything for organizational interest. It just does for contract interest. So because his organizational interest is so low, I don't even know if I'll be able to re-sign him in the offseason. And you can see also, if we did give him the 18.4 he's asking for, that's 16.3% of our team's salary cap. So I honestly don't even know if he's worth bringing back at that point, because maybe we just go with next season Bell, Lorena, Tulipov, Hurd, Lee, and then we could probably get one of these other guys up here. Like even Mahalik could be in the NHL next season potentially. So there is guys that could replace Tuzolino, but nobody's going to bring that offensive thing that he wants. Also, according to this part, he doesn't actually want an extension, so I feel like there's a high chance that we might lose him this offseason, which is not great. I don't know any team that's going to have $18 million in cap space to sign this guy, so maybe we could get him on a reduced contract if he's still a free agent at some point, but for right now, I think he might honestly test the free agent market, which is a bit scary, just because it definitely makes us a little bit weaker on the defensive side of things than I was expecting. But anyways, let's get in your guys' not letting your guys' comments. Let's get into this first round matchup. I'm almost losing my mind now because Tuzolino is just in my head. That contract negotiation is going to be lingering throughout this entire playoff run, which is not great. Hopefully the team just doesn't think about the offseason yet. Hopefully they just focus on the games ahead, and hopefully we can find a way to win this first round. So let's get to game number 1 on home ice. See if we can get ourselves a nice little victory here and set the tone for the rest of the series. Here we go. Yes, AHL Sim. And let's see if we can get going. Hopefully we can have a good defensive series against them as well, not just offensive. First period, game number 1. 3-1 Minnesota. That's not a good way to start off for Gionta. Oh boy, that's the one thing I'm a little bit worried about, is if we don't get that goaltending that we need to get. So McCabe opens the scoring for them, then Ristolainen tied it up not too long later, like literally a minute later. Then they get the lead back literally like 20 seconds later. And then Kaprizov gives them a late goal to give them a 3-1 lead. Shots are 12-9 in favor of us after the first period, but Gionta might have already been yanked in this first period, which is not great. So one thing I was talking with Saturn to talk about in Discord is I wonder how the playoffs are going to go, and he's like, it's based on the goaltending. If you could get that, I think that's what he was mentioning, is if the goaltending held up, we could win this series. But right now, seems like our goaltending is definitely not doing as good as last year. So that would be definitely why we could have brought back Spets, for the playoff goaltending that he's been bringing to this team. But right now, Gionta is not off to a good start, which makes me think we might have to turn to somebody that's a low overall in the future. But I will see how Gionta plays, obviously, in Game 2 as well. But hopefully he has a better second period, because we're still in this game, but it's definitely not a great start when you allow 3 goals on 9 shots. Like, 1 of every 3 shots have gone past him so far up to this point. I don't know if our backup's in at this point, but let's see if we can have a good second period here and get back into this game even more so. Second period. Okay. Well, that's a little bit of a flair for the dramatic from this team. We are now leading 4-3. We were down 3-1. Tulipov gets us within 1 early into the second period, which is great to see. Cashman ties it up with 5:52 left. And then we get a big goal from Ristolainen with 37 seconds left. We were trailing 3-1. Now we're winning 4-3. We're out shooting them 28-18 as well. We're only up by a goal, so we got to be a bit worried about that. But that's definitely a huge response in the second period from this team. The question now is, can we get some insurance and lock this one down? Let's see what happens on the third period of play. Come on, boys. Hey, Zach Hurd makes it 5-3. Well, that's a great response from this team. Bad first period, but Gionta's been pretty damn good since then. He hasn't faced as much shots as he was facing early on in the game, I guess. But this is a great start. Del Monte made it 6-3. Knack makes it 6-4. Of course, after I said that, then they scored another one. Peterson makes it 7-4. Hopefully we're not scoring all of our goals in the first game of the series. And we're going to win game 1 despite having a bad first period. We win 7-4. As in the second and third period, we outscored them 6-1, basically. Which is pretty damn impressive. So, solid first game. Not a great first period, but I will definitely take that. Hopefully we could build off that going forward. Hopefully we could have better defensive efforts. But scoring 7 goals on a good defensive team is a great sign. So Ristolainen from Tuzolino and Stowitz. And we had Tulipov from Stowitz, Cashman from Tuzolino and Capaduca, Ristolainen from Hurd and Lambert, Hurd from Ristolainen and Stowitz, Del Monte from Peterson and Tuzolino, and Peterson from Tulipov and Del Monte. Let's take a look at those stat lines here. Tuzolino on 3 points, and with Staubitz, we also had Ristolainen on 3 points, Peterson, Hurd, Del Monte, Tulipov all on 2 points, Cashman, Capaduca, and Lambert with 1 point. And probably not any minus players, which is good. Goaltending, Gionta had an 852, so he wasn't great, to be honest. But at least he gets to win because their offense was good in it. First star of the game going to Ristolainen, second star Hurd, and third star Staubitz. I think Staubitz and Ristolainen obviously could be difference makers as well if we are going to win a Stanley Cup this year, because if they continue to put up good offensive numbers like that a lot, we could definitely do some damage. They had great regular seasons. They've had a good start to the playoffs as well. Let's keep it rolling. Let's get to game 2 already. I don't really, like I said, the goaltending in that first period of game number 1, but maybe Gionta could kind of have a better game number 2, and then hopefully our offense could do similar outputs, because if we could get a better defensive effort and a better goaltending effort, then our team at least starts to clean up those areas that it's kind of struggling at the moment. But let's get to game 2 and see if we can build off that great first game in terms of offense at least. Come on, boys. Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep it rolling. First period, game number 2. 1-0 us. Good start offensively. Good start defensively by comparison to last game as well. So that's a much better first period than last game. Hurd opens the scoring. So Hurd's already got 2 goals in the series. So good to see the youngster scoring some goals in the playoffs. Shots are 14-9 in favor of us. It's a 1-0 game, so still relatively close. Can we get some insurance in the second period and not let them do what we did to them, basically? So basically, since we were down 3-1 after one last game, we had a huge second period. Hopefully they don't have a huge second period in this one. Second period. And still 1-0. Okay. Much better game defensively. Not as crazy offensive, of course, but I will take these nice, good defensive games as well. Shots are even. Goals are 1-0 us. So both goaltenders have been good up to this point. Gionta's definitely doing stronger than he did last game. The defense is doing stronger. It's just the offense isn't as good as it was last game, but maybe we could get some of that a bit in the third period. So can we lock down game 2? Let's see what happens in this third period. Come on, boys. Let's build off the last game. Find maybe another goal just to give us a little bit more breathing room. Damn, this is quite a defensive game by comparison to last game. Last game was almost more like a shootout. This one's more like a shutout type of game almost. And why did I just say that word? I gotta be careful here. Gotta be careful. And we are gonna shut them out 1-0. So that's a much better goaltending effort for sure from Gionta. 36 saves for his first career playoff shutout. That's a really good game from him. We need those type of games as well. We can't just be scoring 7 goals a game. We need those type of defensive efforts as well. So Hurd with the only goal. That was a minute 32 into the game, and then afterwards there was no goals afterwards. So if you're a fan of high-scoring games, that would have been probably a boring game to go to. But Hurd it's probably going to get first star because that our second star actually because of the shutout. Staubitz and Lee draw the assist, so Staubitz with another point, which is great to see. Gionta the first star, Wallstead second star, and Hurd the third star with the game-winning goal. Let's go. All right. Well, like I said, we got to have those type of good defensive games as well. Like, we can't be just scoring consistently every single game. I will definitely take that. That definitely shows that we have some strength in goal and also on defense as well. So we take both of our home games, which is fantastic. Hopefully we could take some games in Minnesota as well. But this is a good start to this playoff run for our team. Because obviously, like, the first period was bad in game number 1, but game number 1's second period and third period were good, and then that game was pretty much good the entire thing, I would say. So let's continue to build off that. Let's head to Minnesota. Let's get to game 3 already. I know this episode might end up being short if we end up actually finding a way to sweep this team. I don't think we're going to sweep Minnesota because they definitely could steal a game here and there. But let's get to game 3 and see if we could win on the road as well and take a 3-0 series lead here. Let's just build off last game again. Good defense and also get some goal scoring support maybe too. First period, game number 3. 2-1 us. Okay, that's an okay start. I guess Heatley opens the scoring, so that's great to see a fourth liner with barely any ice time score a goal. Rossi then ties it up, and in a late goal from Kolars with a minute 12 left. Shots are 13-10 in favor of Minnesota, so Gionta's definitely playing a lot better as of the last 4 periods. Hopefully he keeps that going the rest of this game. Hopefully we can get some more insurance, because obviously a 2-1 lead. We can't necessarily rely on our goaltending too much for the entire game, so we definitely need some insurance just to play it safe. Can we get some insurance in that second period? Second period? Still 2-1. Okay, we are finding ways to have good defensive periods as well here in this first round, which is great. Shots are even 23-23 again, just like they were last game after 2 periods. We are up by 1 again, just like last game, but it's a 2-1 score rather than a 1-0 score. The question is now, can we find a good lockdown game again, just like last game? Are we going to get some insurance, or is it going to be a crazy hectic third period? Let's see what happens. Come on, boys. Just got to find a way to get some insurance and make it more breathable. And they tied up. I knew they were eventually going to. Marco Rossi beats Giunta. Power play for us. We do not score. Penalty kill. We kill it off. Nicely done, penalty killers. Come on, boys. Let's find a way to win this one here. Final few minutes of this third period, still tied at 2. Penalty kill late in the game, and we killed it off just on the nick of time. We're headed into overtime for the first time in the series. Shots are dead even still, 33-33. So, as expected, this series is definitely going to be a little bit closer because we are both very close in the standings. So far, these last 2 games, both have been pretty even in terms of shots and goals as well for. The only game that's been a bit of an outlier is game number 1 in that sense with the offense and all that. But we head to overtime for the first time in the series. Can we find a way to win it? Who wants to be the hero? Who do I want to call upon to win the game for us? Trying to think. Let's call on Tuizelino just because of his contract negotiations. See if he wants to give this team a game-winning goal. He's never scored a goal in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure, at this point, which is kind of insane. So it would be nice to see him get on the board if possible. So let's get to overtime, see if we can find a way to take a 3-0 series lead here. And we are! Okay! And it's Peterson of all people. Okay. So a nice win on the road. We have won 2 games in a row only by 1 goal. So hypothetically, we could have lost those games. But I do like that we can win these kind of close battles as well. Not just blow other teams out of the water. Final shots 35-34 for Minnesota. But we win by 1. And we are 1 win away from the second round already. So Heatley from Norena and Lambert, then we had Kolars from Ristolainen, and Peterson from Del Monte and Kim. Pretty damn solid. Any minus people on this team? Probably not, right? A couple minus, actually, Lee and Hurd, but that's all right, because Hurd's been playing good in the series. But, like, Heatley gets 8 minutes a game, and he scored a goal in that game. So that's exactly what I kind of need from this lineup, is just scoring goals, to even if you have low ice time, trying to find any way to score goals. So Rossi, the first star for them, Giunta, the second star for us, and Nadeau, the third star for them. So that's maybe a game they should have probably won, but our goaltending held up, which is great. Giannis had a good last 2 games, and just like that, we're up 3-0 and have a chance to go to the next round already. Obviously, we could still get reverse swept, but I don't think that's going to happen. This team definitely feels a bit different than prior years just because we showed our offensive touch in the first game, and we've shown that we can win close and good defensive games in these last 2 ones. So let's keep the team the exact same. I know we're only like 20-something minutes into this recording, but we might as well see if we can pull off the sweep. Obviously, if we lose back-to-back games, then we might make adjustments. But obviously right now, the team is clicking. Let's keep it the same and see if we can pull off the sweep here in Minnesota. Come on, boys. Let's see if we can win this one. First period, game number 4. 1-1, I'll take it. Another solid start defensively. We did score 1 goal on 13 shots. They actually scored 1 on 7 shots. So not the strongest start for Giunta, but it's an even first period with Ristolainen and Faber scoring. Ristolainen's been pretty good in the series in terms of goal scoring. Love to see it. Can we find a way to get that lead in the second period? Second period? 4-1 Albuquerque. Okay, maybe we're safe. Now, Heatley scores his second goal of the series. He's becoming Danny Heatley at this point. Doig scores on the power play, and Ristolainen scores again. We have a 3-goal advantage going into the third with the shots 27-19. We're a period away from the second round. Let's lock this one down and see if we can lock it down. Ristolainen scores his hat trick. I think that is 5-1. We're having another strong offensive game. Del Monte makes it 6-1. God damn. Ristolainen scores another 7-1. I think Ristolainen has 4 goals in this game. So we've scored 7 goals 2 times in this series against Minnesota. Damn. 8-1. Doig scores his second goal of the night. God damn, guys. Slow down on the offense. Slow down. And we're going to win the series in 4 games via sweep. We score 8 goals in 1 game, 7 goals in another, and then we had 2 good defensive games. And this was a really good defensive game too, actually. 1 goal against on 32 shots. We score 8 on 45. What an effort. That's exactly what I want to see from this team. Great offense, great defense, great goaltending. And that was a huge offensive effort. So Ristolainen from Kolars, we had Heatley from Hurd and Lambert, Doig from Del Monte and Kim, Ristolainen from Tulipov, Ristolainen from Staubitz and Kolars, Del Monte from Norena and Kim, Ristolainen from Kim and Del Monte, and Doig from Cashman and Tulipov. So yeah, Ristolainen with a 4-goal effort in this game. Holy crap, 4 goals on 7 shots. Love to see it. Kim had 3 assists, which is fantastic too. Del Monte on 3 points. He had Doig, Kolars, Tulipov on 2 points. Bunch of guys on 1 point as well. This entire team was plus except for one guy. Yeah, literally Peterson was the only one that wasn't plus in this game. So that is really, really good to see. Great team win there. Great team win. And in goaltending, Gionta had a 969. So literally everybody showed up in that game. And that's what I want to see. So Ristolainen first star, 4 goals and 6 hits. Doig the second star, 2 goals and 5 hits. And Gionta the third star with the 968. So Gionta's had 3 straight great games for his team as well net. So that was a very nice first round. That might be our best first round we've ever had. Probably it was our best first round we've ever had. Hopefully we keep that momentum rolling in the next episode when we find out whoever we're facing against. But first and foremost, let's take a look at some player stats after the first round. Actually, let's go to team stats here first. I do want to see. Oh, actually, we'll wait we'll wait until I see who we're facing first, just so that way we can do a comparison instead. But in terms of our player stats after the first round, let's see what we got here. So Ristolainen on 8 points, 6 goals in 4 games, fantastic stats, +7. We had Kim on an assist a game basically. Peterson on 3 points, Heatley on 2 goals despite low ice time, Cashman on 2 points, really good center depth. Left wing side of things, Del Monte over point per game with 6 points in 4 games. Kolars on 3 points in 4 games. Lambert on 3 points. Capaduca on an assist. Dag had no points but was +5. And then right wing side of things, Staubitz on 5 assists. No goals for the 64 goal score, which is kind of surprising, but did set up some goals. And we had Doig on 2 goals in 4 games. So everybody on our forward group had points instead for Dag. Yeah, damn. And everybody on the forward group was plus. So that's really good to see. Our depth is showing up. And then from a defensive standpoint, we had Hurd on 4 points, to him with Tulipov, Tuzolino on 3 assists, no goals still so far. Norena on 2 assists, Lee on an assist, and Bell had no points. But everybody on this team is plus, which is great. Bell, the only defender with no points. So only 2 guys on the entire team have no points after that first round, and we swept them. So if this went to 7 games, everybody on this team would have had more points probably, but 4-game sweep, that's a really nice sign to see. And then from a goaltending perspective, Gionta had 4 wins but had 946 save percentage. He was really, really good for his first ever playoff start technically. I mean, last year he actually was pretty good in the playoffs too, for that matter. 923 save percentage in 1 game. So maybe he's a playoff goaltender, which is nice. Hopefully continue this momentum going to the next round because there was no problems whatsoever. No problems, I would say. Because, yeah, there's a lot of guys that haven't scored goals yet, but a lot of them have points. Plus minus is fantastic. Goaltending is fantastic. No problems with the team. The question is now, who are we playing in round number 2? Been a while since we've been in round number 2. Actually, when was the last time we were in round 2? Did we get to round 2 last year? I don't remember what the scenario was. No, last year we lost in round 1 to St. Louis. The year before that, we got to the conference finals. Okay, so it's been a little bit. But hopefully this team has a good run in them. There's still go more games than that. So the question is, who are we playing in round 2? It will be determined here shortly. Advance a day. Just got to be careful that this game doesn't randomly crash somehow. It will be the Dallas Stars. All right, so we have played Dallas, I think, one time in the playoffs before. Aliens and Stars sounds like a good matchup for outer space matchups, which is kind of funny. So yeah, I think we played Dallas before. I can't remember when and what year it was, if we did play them. If we didn't play them at all, it must have been in my near calendar series that I'm thinking of when we might play them in the Cup Finals. But let's take a look at a little comparison and see what we both did during the regular season and playoffs. Then we'll take a look at the roster. Also, maybe we'll take a look at how we did against them during the regular season in a head-to-head, because I am kind of curious on that. So we were the second best team, obviously, we know during the regular season. They were 7 points back of us. They were in that one wildcard spot with 102 points. So they could be technically classified as a cheese team just because they're a wildcard team. They were way worse offensively than us, but they're actually better defensively than us. So they're a good defensive team. They were worse on the power play, and they were worse on the penalty kill. So their special team's not as strong. All right. What about playoff numbers so far? What about playoffs? Because obviously playoffs are usually a different story. Let's sort by wins here. So they won their first round matchup in 5 games. We won in 4 games. They scored 3.2 goals per game. We scored 4.75. They allowed 2.8. We allowed 1.75. So they didn't score as much more than They scored a little tiny bit more for the lack of games. Like only 5 games in the playoffs so far. But they only scored 2 more goals than they allowed. But they won 3 more games. So they must have some solid goaltending or something like that. Their power play was really good in the first round, 23.1% to our 9.1%. So even though our team was fantastic offensively, we weren't scoring on the power play that often. So hopefully our power play could get going a bit. And in penalty kill, they had an 84.6. We had an 87.5%. So our PK was good in the first round. Interesting. Okay. Let's see what we got in terms of their roster. Because I don't really know what they'd have. They probably still have like Jason Roberts. Actually, not at this point. 2037. They might not even have Jason Robertson. So maybe I've never actually played them in the playoffs in this series. Maybe it was just my Islanders series I'm thinking of. But let's see what we got here with Dallas. So, top line, Jason Robertson, Wyatt Johnston, and who's this guy? Jaden Nelson. Drafted by New Jersey. Don't even think I've ever seen this guy. I don't even remember him getting drafted. But that's a pretty good top line. Second line has Nico Huttunen, I think it's pronounced. Mason McTavish is over there now. And Zachary Zanata, double Z. He probably makes me sleepy. And then the third line has Christian Sonnenberg, Barrett Hayton, and Jack Quinn. And a fourth line of Sergei Korolev, Damon Kobayashi, and what's your name? Jyrki Eskalainen. So that's a pretty good offensive core. Good center depth for the most part. Right wing depth is pretty solid. Left wing depth maybe a tiny bit weaker with Sonnenberg being on the third line. But if you moved Eskalainen up, that would still be strong. So yeah, it's a pretty good team in terms of offense so far. Kind of interesting that Jason Robertson's still playing at 37. He has dropped off a lot, but he still plays, it seems like, pretty decently. Yeah, 80 points in the regular season, 5 points in 3 playoff games. Looks like he must have been injured for one of the first round matchup games, which is interesting. All right, or maybe he's returning from injury. Defensively, they have, what's your name? Wes Schwartz. Wes Schwartz, drafted just over a decade ago. Don't know if I remember this guy or not. He's playing with Miro Heiskanen, who's still playing at 37. So they have some of their players that would be there near number 1, which is interesting. They also do have Matthias Persson. I also have Thomas Harley still. Glenn DeVries. Okay. And they also have Tuomas Huttunen. So that's a okay defensive core. Like, I mean, that top 2 pairing is really good. Second pairing, maybe a slight bit weaker with Persson. That top 6 pairing may be a bit weak as well, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. And then from a goaltending perspective, do they have still Jake Ottinger? No, they do not. They have Sebastian Cossa, who literally just got his first NHL win the day before I'm recording this, which is interesting, and won in a shootout. And Callie Klang is the backup, okay? So their goaltending is not overly strong, which is kind of interesting. So, I don't really know what to make of that team for the most part. I'll look at their depth here in a second. But, yeah, the offense is good, I'd say. Their defense, kind of a mixed bag. And their goaltending, kind of a mixed bag. Scratch, they have Brett Berard. That's a pretty good depth option to have. So he played those 2 games when Jason Robertson was out, because you can see he's played 2 playoff games this year. So that's kind of interesting that they're scratching him. I would prefer, if I was them, I would probably scratch somebody like Sonnenberg instead. But I guess they like Sonnenberg for maybe the chemistry. They also do have another depth option in Aiden Kambeats. It was just a depth defenseman, listed as a top 6, so maybe he's actually higher overall, but losing morale. And then Yuri Kulich, at least he's scratched, because if you guys remember, I think it was my Anchorage series, my Anchorage Draft of Glory. If I remember right, I think Yuri Kulich won a Stanley Cup against us, or scored a shorthanded cup-winning goal, if I remember right. I think it was in that series. I honestly don't remember, but I'm pretty sure somewhere back Kulich destroyed us one point, with if I remember right, so I think this is going to be an interesting matchup. I'm trying to think if we'd actually have the upper hand or not. Let's take a look actually at the overall comparison, and then we'll take a look at how we did against them during the regular season. But what is the overalls looking like for our team compared to theirs? So we're a 93, 86, 86. They're an 88, 84, 79. So technically we have the upper hand in every single category. So let's hope that we could use that to our advantage in that sense. All right, final thing, because they are a divisional opponent, we definitely played them a good chunk during the regular season. Let's see what the regular season was like against them. See if we had the season series. Obviously, that doesn't matter really when it gets to the playoffs, but I still want to see how we did against them. So we played them in our second game of the season, lost 5-3, which is interesting. So we lost that game 5-3, the first game of the season. Then the second game that we played against them, let's see, when did we play them next? We lost 3-1, so 0-2 against them in the regular season at that point. And then we probably have one more game against them, I would assume. Maybe not. Did we only play them 2 times? I got to take a look at one of our players' stats just to make sure, because I feel like we probably should have played them more than 2 times if they're in our division, right? I probably just didn't see it. You guys probably did see it, but if I go to Staubitz here, you can see he played all 82 games. If we go split stats and we look against the Dallas Stars this season, let's see. No, we did only play 2 games against them, all right. Only 2 games against him. Staubitz didn't have a single point. Huh. I'm a little bit concerned that we didn't play good against them during the regular season, but maybe the playoffs were just a completely different animal. Like, we had a great regular season, but they were also pretty damn good, 48, 28, and 6. Could be another even matchup, even though we technically have the upper hand, I'd say, going forward. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll shoot for the stars. We'll look to see if we can get ourselves to that conference finals for the first time since like a few years ago. Obviously, this team is playing great offensively and defensively so far after round 1. Hopefully, we didn't get too much rest in between series, and hopefully we find a way to win this series as well and keep the momentum rolling. So anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.